The Carter brothers had always been adventurous. Jack, the older brother at 17, was cautious but bold when it mattered. His younger brother, Luke, just 15, was fearless to the point of recklessness. Growing up in the small town of Willow Creek, where excitement was hard to come by, the two had developed a habit of inventing their own thrills. So when rumors about the abandoned house at the end of Willow Lane reached their ears, it wasn't a question of if they would check it out. It was just a matter of when. The McKinley house, as the locals called it, had stood empty for over 40 years. Legend said the family who built it had mysteriously disappeared one night, leaving their dinners still warm on the table. Others said it had been a hospital during the war, a place of suffering and death. No matter which story you believed, everyone agreed on one thing: it was haunted. Lights flickered in the windows even though there was no electricity. Shadows moved across the yard when no one was there. Strange noises echoed in the night. It was the perfect place for two bored brothers desperate for a challenge. "You sure about this?" Jack asked, standing at the edge of the overgrown path that led to the house. The sun was setting behind them, casting long, eerie shadows across the field. Luke grinned, slinging a backpack over his shoulder. Scared, Jack rolled his eyes, though a shiver ran down his spine. "Just making sure you know what we're getting into." Without waiting for a response, Luke pushed ahead, kicking through the tall weeds. Jack followed reluctantly, glancing back once at the fading light of their neighborhood in the distance. The house loomed closer with every step, its boarded windows like blind eyes, its sagging roof seeming to sink under the weight of time. "Awesome," Luke said, his voice low and reverent. "We're really doing this." Jack hesitated at the threshold, then stepped inside. He had promised their mom he would watch over Luke, and tonight would be no different. They ascended cautiously, the stairs groaning under their weight. At the top, they found a hallway lined with doors. Most of the rooms were empty, filled only with debris and the occasional piece of broken furniture. But at the far end of the hall, they found one room that was different. The door was closed. Luke reached for the doorknob, but Jack grabbed his arm. "Wait. What if?" Before he could finish, Luke twisted the knob and pushed the door open. The room beyond was strangely intact compared to the rest of the house. An old fireplace dominated one wall, its hearth filled with ash. A threadbare rug covered the floor, and heavy curtains hung over the windows, blocking out the last of the evening light. "This is perfect," Luke said, stepping inside. "It's even got a fireplace." Jack followed, uneasy. "Yeah, too perfect." They set up their sleeping bags near the fireplace, placing their backpacks within reach. Jack pulled out a small battery-powered lantern and switched it on, casting a warm glow over the room. They sat for a while, sharing stories and laughing nervously, trying to ignore the creaks and groans of the old house settling around them. Hours passed. The brothers dozed off, the lantern flickering softly. It started with a sound, faint at first, almost easy to dismiss. A soft scraping, like something dragging across wood. Jack's eyes snapped open. He sat up, heart pounding. Beside him, Luke stirred and mumbled something incoherent. The sound grew louder. Jack shook Luke awake. "Listen." They held their breath. The scraping continued, now unmistakably closer, accompanied by the slow, deliberate creak of floorboards bending under weight. "Maybe it's just the house settling," Luke whispered, though his voice lacked conviction. Jack wasn't so sure. He reached for the iron rod he had found earlier, an old poker from the fireplace, and gripped it tightly. Suddenly, the door to their room creaked open. A figure stood there, silhouetted against the dim hallway. It was tall and thin, its head cocked at an unnatural angle. It didn't move like a person. It twitched, almost like a puppet jerked on strings. Luke gasped. Jack shoved him behind the fireplace, pressing a finger to his lips. The figure entered the room, its steps erratic but purposeful. It sniffed the air, a rasping, animalistic sound. It paused by their sleeping bags, bending low to inspect them. Jack's mind raced. They couldn't stay hidden forever. He had to act. He tightened his grip on the poker, muscles tensing. The figure straightened suddenly, as if sensing their presence. It turned toward the fireplace. Jack sprang from his hiding place with a shout, swinging the poker with all his strength. The metal struck the figure across the chest. There was a terrible cracking noise, and the figure staggered back, shrieking in a voice that sounded less human and more like a malfunctioning machine. "Run!" Jack screamed. He grabbed Luke's hand, and together they sprinted out of the room, down the hall, and back toward the stairs. Behind them, the figure gave chase, its footsteps pounding unnaturally fast. They stumbled down the stairs, half falling, half running. Jack felt something brush his back, a cold, burning sensation that made his skin crawl, but he didn't dare look back. They burst out of the front door and into the night, racing through the weeds and the trees, not stopping until they reached the road. Only then did they look back. The house was dark and silent once more, as if nothing had happened. They collapsed on the side of the road, gasping for air. For a long time, neither of them spoke. Jack stared at the house, heart hammering in his chest, trying to make sense of what they had just seen. Finally, Luke broke the silence. What was that thing?" Jack shook his head. "I don't know. I don't want to know." They sat there until the first light of dawn began to creep over the horizon. When they finally got up to head home, they did so without a word, each lost in their own swirling thoughts. Over the following days, they tried to forget. But strange things started happening. Luke's backpack, left behind in the rush, showed up on their front porch one morning, muddy and torn. Jack's flashlight, which he was certain he had dropped during their escape, was found under his bed. They didn't talk about the house. They didn't go back to Willow Lane. But at night, Jack would sometimes wake to hear faint scraping sounds outside his window or see fleeting shadows at the edge of the woods. They had survived the night in the McKinley house, but something or someone had followed them home. The bond between the brothers grew even stronger after that. Jack became even more protective of Luke, and Luke, for once, accepted it. They knew they had faced something beyond understanding, something that had changed them both. They had looked fear in the face and survived together. It was a story no one else in Willow Creek would ever believe. But they didn't care. They had each other, and whatever darkness lingered beyond the edges of their world, they would face it side by side. The memory of that night never fully left them. It lingered in the quiet moments, in the creak of a floorboard or the chill of an unexpected breeze. And every so often, when the moon was full and the shadows deep, they could still hear it, the soft, deliberate scrape of something searching for them. But they were ready now. They were brothers. And they would survive anything.